What do you do when your family expects you to sacrifice everything for them, but never think about what you need? Olivia has spent years climbing the corporate ladder, putting herself second to everyone else, especially her sisters. But when her family plans a vacation without her and asks her to watch the kids, something snaps. This time, she won't just say yes. Stay tuned to see how Olivia takes control of her life and finally chooses herself. Don't forget to subscribe for more empowering stories. My name is Olivia, and at 32, I've spent the last decade building my career as a manager at Preston & Associates. While my younger sisters Chloe and Emily were busy starting their families, I was climbing the corporate ladder. Don't get me wrong, I love my job, but sometimes I can't help but wonder if I missed out on something along the way. No husband, no kids, just me in my corner office with a view of the city. It was a regular Tuesday morning when my phone rang. Chloe's name lit up the screen, and I answered while sorting through a stack of reports on my desk. "Hey, Ash!" Chloe's voice chimed through the speaker. At 26, my youngest sister had always been the bubbly one. "Got a minute?" "Sure, what's up?" I shuffled some papers aside, half listening as I reviewed quarterly numbers. "So, you know Mom's turning 60 in 2 months, right?" She paused, making sure I was paying attention. "Well, we're planning something special, and we need everyone to chip in." That got my full attention. "Okay, how much are we talking about?" When Chloe named the figure, I nearly spat out my coffee. It was more than I'd spent on my last vacation, which now that I thought about it had been 3 years ago. "I know it's a lot," Chloe rushed to add, "but it's for Mom, you know." No, it's fine," I said, already pulling up my banking app. "I'll transfer it right now." "Great! Oh, and one more thing. Make sure you take a week off work for the celebration. Don't plan anything else for that time, okay?" The next few weeks flew by in a blur of meetings and deadlines. Occasionally, I'd wonder what my sisters were planning with all that money. But whenever I asked, they'd brush me off with vague responses. Eventually, work consumed me, and Mom's birthday drifted to the back of my mind. Then came the Saturday dinner. We gathered at our parents' house, Mom and Dad, my sisters, Aunt Patricia and her kids, my cousins Kevin and Megan. The familiar chaos of family dinner surrounded us. Dad cracking the same old jokes, Mom fussing over everyone's plates, the usual. That's when Chloe dropped her bomb. "So," she said, pushing her peas around her plate with an air of calculated casualness, "we finally got everything arranged for Mom's birthday. We're all going to spend a week at Mountain Pine Resort." Nay. The table erupted into excited chatter. Mom was beaming, Dad was already talking about hitting the slopes, and my sisters were discussing which ski runs they wanted to try. I sat there, a sinking feeling growing in my stomach. "Why didn't anyone tell me earlier?" I asked, feeling left out and suddenly a little off balance. I don't even have a ski suit, and there's barely any time to get one now. The table fell silent. Too silent. Mom cleared her throat, and my stomach dropped before she even opened her mouth. "Actually, honey," she said, her voice adopting that familiar, pleading tone she used whenever she was about to ask for a favor she knew I couldn't refuse. "We were hoping you could do us all a huge favor and watch the kids while we're there." I stared at my family gathered around the dinner table, waiting for someone to laugh, to say it was all a joke, but the silence stretched on, broken only by the soft clink of silverware against plates. "You want me to watch the kids?" I finally managed to say, all 5 of them. My mind started counting them off automatically. Emily's toddler, Ryan. Chloe's baby girl, Lucy. Cousin Kevin's twins, Tom and Anna. And Megan's son, Pete. 5 kids under the age of 7. "Well, you're so good with them," Mom said, as if that explained everything. "They love their Aunt Olivia." I looked around the table again, still hoping to see a hint of humor in someone's eyes. There was none, just expectant faces waiting for my usual yes. "But that's not fair," I heard myself say, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. "I want to celebrate with everyone too. It's Mom's birthday." Emily, my 28-year-old sister, put down her fork with a sigh. "Come on, Olivia, you'll be bored there anyway. It's going to be noisy and crowded." "Bored?" I repeated. "How would you know if I'd be bored?" "Well," she continued, exchanging glances with Chloe, "you're great with the kids. They adore you, and let's be honest, it's not like you need a break from family life." I felt my chest tighten. What's that supposed to mean? Chloe jumped in, her voice carrying that condescending tone she'd perfected over the years. She just means that you don't have children or a husband to get away from. The rest of us, we need this break, you understand, right? The green beans on my plate blurred as I blinked back tears. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me cry. Instead, I quietly pushed back my chair and stood up. Olivia? Mom's voice held a note of concern, but not enough to actually stop me. Without a word, I grabbed my purse from the counter and headed for the door. Nobody moved to stop me. Nobody called out. The only sound that followed me was Mom's voice drifting from the dining room. Don't worry, she'll be a little offended at first, but she'll come around. She always does. As I walked to my car, their voices faded behind me, already shifting to lighter topics. Ski slopes, winter gear, and everything else that had nothing to do with me. The evening air cut through the tension, cool against my face, and helped clear my head. 10 years. 10 years of putting everyone else first, being the reliable one, the one who always showed up. And this was the thanks I got in return. The worst part wasn't even the babysitting request. It was the casualness of it all. The assumption that I would just agree, the way they planned everything without me, using my time, my money, my vacation days as if I were just a tool to be used, not a person who should be included in the family. I spent the rest of the night pacing around my apartment, replaying every family dinner, every holiday, every moment when I put everything aside to help someone else. The memories came rushing back, each one now tainted by the events of the evening. There I was at 16, making dinner while Mom helped Emily with her homework. At 18, turning down a spring break trip with friends to watch Chloe while our parents went away for the weekend. At 21, juggling 2 jobs in college to help pay for Emily's prom dress. The images kept coming year after year, sacrifice after sacrifice. Olivia, can you watch Ryan for a few hours? Emily's voice echoed in my head. I really need a break. Olivia, would you mind taking the twins for the weekend? Kevin's familiar request played back like a broken record. Megan's overwhelmed with Pete, and you're so good with kids. I always said yes. Always. Even when I had meetings the next day. Even when I was exhausted from my own work week. I'd taken pride in being the responsible one. The one everyone could rely on, the perfect daughter. The perfect sister. I collapsed onto my couch, the cool leather pressing against my skin. The photo albums on the coffee table caught my eye. Family vacations where I was always the one behind the camera. Holiday dinners where I was always stuck in the kitchen while everyone else laughed in the living room. When was the last time someone had asked me what I wanted? Chloe's words rang in my head, sharp and dismissive. It's not like you need a break from family life. As if my life, my career, my choices were somehow less valid because I wasn't married with kids. As if everything I had done, all those sacrifices, meant nothing because they didn't fit their narrow definition of what mattered. Sleep eluded me that night. I tossed and turned, my mind racing through the years I'd spent working through college on a scholarship, determined not to burden my parents. How I started my career right after graduation, helping both my sisters with school expenses. How I worked late nights at the office, climbing the corporate ladder, sending large chunks of my salary home to help with family bills. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't confrontational, never had been, but there had to be a way to resolve this, a way to make them understand without tearing the family apart. So I did what I always did when there was a problem. I tried to fix it. I waited until a reasonable hour on Sunday morning before picking up my phone. Mom answered on the third ring. Hi, Mom, I said, keeping my voice steady. I've been thinking about the resort trip. Actually, I have a solution. I'll pay for a professional babysitter for all 5 kids. That way, everyone can enjoy the celebration together. The silence on the other end of the line stretched too long, too thick. Finally, my mom spoke, her voice tight. That won't work, Olivia, she said. We can't trust some stranger with the children. They're used to you. Mom, I want to be part of the celebration too, I tried to explain. I want to be there for your birthday. I could find a really good babysitter, someone with excellent references, you know. You're not exactly a social butterfly, she cut me off, her voice sharp. You'd probably be uncomfortable with all the noise and activity anyway. The children will keep you busy and you enjoy spending time with them. It's perfect for everyone. The click of the call ending echoed in my ear before I could respond. I sat there, phone still pressed to my ear, as my mother's words sank in. She hadn't even bothered to say goodbye. I was still staring at my phone, processing my mother's abrupt hang-up when it buzzed again. Chloe's name flashed across the screen. "How dare you!" she hissed before I could even say hello. "Mom just told me about your little suggestion about hiring a babysitter. Are you trying to ruin everything?" I sat up straighter, my sister's hostile tone catching me off guard. "Ruin everything? I'm trying to find a solution that works for everyone." "We already have a solution!" Chloe's voice rose. "Everything's planned, Olivia, everything. And now you're being completely selfish, trying to change all our arrangements at the last minute." The accusation hit me like a slap. "I'm being selfish?" "Yes, you are. We've been planning this for weeks. Everyone's excited, the resort is booked, the activities are scheduled, and now you want to throw a wrench in everything because you can't just do this one thing for the family." My hand started shaking. "One thing? Are you serious? You know what? If you ruin this trip for everyone, if you spoil Mom's birthday celebration, don't bother talking to me again. I mean it, Olivia." The line went dead. I sat there, stunned by my baby sister's threat, when my phone buzzed with incoming messages, this time from Emily. "Family needs to stick together," her first text read. "We all help each other out." Another message popped up. "Remember when I watered your flowers last year while you were at that conference?" And another. "You're good with the kids. They love you. Why can't you just forget about being resentful and think about what's best for the family?" My fingers flew across the keyboard as I typed. A real family doesn't take advantage of each other. A real family respects each other's wishes and includes everyone in their plans. A real family doesn't manipulate and guilt-trip each other. I watched the 3 dots flicker on the screen, appearing and disappearing over and over, but no response came. And then it hit me. The way they'd asked for money without offering a single explanation. The careful way they told me to take time off work, never mentioning the resort. The casual, almost rehearsed way they'd announced their plans at dinner, as if everything had already been set in stone. They had planned this from the start. While I was working late nights, while I was babysitting their kids, while I was playing the role of the perfect daughter and sister, they had been quietly arranging this trip. They had used my money, manipulated my schedule, and planned to dump 5 children on me with no prior conversation, no real request. And now, because I wasn't following their script, they were resorting to every manipulation tactic they could think of. Guilt, threats, emotional blackmail, all to shove me back into the box they had built for me. Something strange happens when you finally see through the fog of manipulation. The layers peel away, and suddenly, everything is crystal clear. I felt lighter than I had in years. The crushing guilt that had weighed me down was replaced with something entirely different: determination. I closed my laptop and started searching. In under an hour, I had booked a beachfront hotel in Florida. Nothing extravagant, but it had a balcony overlooking the ocean, and it was within walking distance of everything I might need. I even splurged on a first-class plane ticket. After all, I had plenty of money now that I wouldn't be skiing for a week. The next few days at work were surprisingly peaceful. My family had stopped calling and texting, likely assuming I was at home preparing for the week of childcare. Maybe I was buying extra snacks, planning activities. The thought made me smile as I packed my beach clothes and new swimsuit. "Taking a tropical vacation in the middle of winter?" my colleague Janet asked when she saw me checking the Florida weather. "Sometimes you need to do something unexpected," I replied, the words feeling surprisingly freeing as I said them out loud. The morning of my flight, I took one last look around my apartment. I'd cleaned everything meticulously, out of habit. The empty fridge, the locked windows, everything in perfect order, just as always. But this time, I wasn't sticking around for any desperate phone calls begging me to babysit. As the plane lifted off, I switched off my phone, tucked it into my bag, and left behind all the noise, no social media, no emails, no family drama. Just me, the beach, and a whole week of freedom. The Florida air hit me like a warm embrace when I stepped out of the airport. The palm trees swayed gently in the breeze, and I could already smell the salt from the ocean. My hotel room was even better than the pictures. The balcony offered a perfect view of the endless blue horizon, the sound of the waves crashing against the shore, just enough to lull me into a peaceful serenity. That first afternoon, I walked barefoot on the beach, letting the warm sand squeeze between my toes. When was the last time I'd done something like this? When was the last time I'd done anything just for me? I swam in the hotel pool, read a book without interruptions, and had dinner at a quiet beachside restaurant where no one needed me to cut their food or clean up their spills. I watched the sunset from my balcony, sipping a glass of wine, and for the first time in years, I didn't think about bedtime routines, schedules, or responsibilities. My last morning in Florida, I savored my final moments of peace. I knew I'd have to turn my phone back on eventually, face whatever chaos I'd left behind. But I hadn't expected quite what I found when my phone finally powered up. It started buzzing non-stop. Messages, voicemails, calls, hundreds of them. The timestamp showed they started exactly a week ago, early in the morning. My hands trembled slightly as I began scrolling through them. The first messages were from Chloe. "Where are you? We're outside your house." Then Emily. "Olivia, open the door. The kids are getting restless." Kevin. "Hey, we brought Tom and Anna like planned. Are you home?" Megan. "Olivia, what's going on? Pete's asking for his auntie." As I read through the messages, I could picture the scene perfectly. My sisters and cousins standing outside my empty house with 5 confused children, their suitcases packed for the resort, their carefully laid plans crumbling around them. The tone of the messages changed quickly from confusion to panic. "Olivia, this isn't funny. Where are you? Pick up your phone." "What are we supposed to do with the kids? You can't just disappear like this." Then came the anger. Chloe's messages turned nasty. "You selfish witch! How could you do this to us?" Emily wasn't much better. "I can't believe you're this immature. Mom's birthday is ruined because of you." My Aunt Patricia's messages made me wince. I'd never seen her use that kind of language before. "You ungrateful little, you've ruined everything. These children were counting on you." Mom's messages started later in the day. "I'm so disappointed in you, Olivia. I never thought you'd be this selfish after everything we've done for you." Dad, who rarely texted, had sent just one message. "Your mother is crying. I hope you're happy with yourself." The voicemails were worse. I could hear the anger, the disappointment, the accusations in their voices. Messages from extended family members I hadn't talked to in months suddenly appeared, all of them condemning my behavior. "You've always been so reliable. How could you do this to your own family? Those poor children. You've ruined everything." I sat there in my peaceful hotel room reading message after message, learning exactly what my family thought of me when I finally stopped being their convenient solution. The words they used, the names they called me, the assumptions they made about my character. It was like meeting a whole new family, one that had been hiding behind fake smiles and casual requests for favors. Without responding to any of them, I packed my bags and headed to the airport. It was time to go home, but I wasn't the same Olivia who had left a week ago. That Olivia might have apologized, might have felt guilty, might have tried to make it up to everyone, but that Olivia was gone. I had just finished unpacking my beach clothes when I heard the aggressive pounding on my front door. Before I could even reach it, I heard a key turning in the lock, the emergency key I'd given my mother years ago, just in case. They burst in like an angry storm, Mom leading the charge, Emily and Chloe flanking her sides, all of them red-faced and wild-eyed. The peaceful feeling I'd cultivated in Florida evaporated instantly. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Chloe screamed, stepping forward. "You ruined everything! Everything!" I stood my ground, watching them unleash their fury in my living room, the same living room where I'd babysat their children countless times, where I'd canceled my own plans to accommodate their emergencies, where I'd always been the reliable one. "Mike and John refused to stay with the kids," Emily spat out, referring to their husbands. "They both suddenly had important business to take care of, so Chloe had to stay home with all 5 children while we went to the resort. She missed Mom's birthday because of you." "The whole trip was ruined," Mom added, her voice rising. "Nobody could enjoy themselves. All we did was talk about how you betrayed us, how you let everyone down. Your father couldn't even ski properly. He was so upset. They continued their tirade, voices rising in unison, each one trying to outdo the others in expressing their anger and disappointment. The more they talked, the more absurd it all seemed until, suddenly, something inside me snapped, but not in the way they expected. I started laughing. The sound sliced through their accusations like a knife. They stopped mid-sentence, staring at me as if I had lost my mind. "What's so funny?" Mom demanded, her face flushing dark red. "What could possibly be funny about this situation?" I wiped tears of laughter from my eyes, still smiling. "Don't you see how ridiculous this is? Do you really not understand how absurd you all sound right now?" "Absurd?" Emily sputtered, shaking her head. "What's absurd is that you secretly planned this entire trip," I interrupted, my laughter fading, but my voice steady and cutting. "You decided without asking me that I would watch your children. You took my money, told me to take time off work, and assumed I'd just fall in line with your plans. And now, when everything falls apart because of your assumptions, you're calling me the villain?" Mom looked taken aback, her confusion making her voice smaller. "But you've always helped before," she said, struggling to understand. "You've never said no." "And that's exactly the problem," I shot back, my words sharp. "Because I always helped, you started taking advantage of me. You stopped seeing me as a daughter or a sister and started seeing me as free childcare. You stopped considering my feelings, my plans, my life." "That's not true," Chloe protested weakly, but her voice lacked conviction. "Really?" I raised an eyebrow. "Then why didn't you include me in the planning? Why didn't you ask if I wanted to go to the resort? Why did you just assume I'd be happy to stay behind with 5 kids while you all went off to have fun?" I studied their faces, hoping to see anything that might suggest they understood. But instead, I saw their expressions harden. "You're being selfish," Mom said, her voice icy. "You've ruined my birthday. You've hurt your sisters. You've disappointed the children. This isn't how I raised you." The last thread of hope I'd been clinging to snapped. "No, Mom," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "You're the ones being selfish. This whole situation is your fault, not mine." Mom stood taller, her face turning to stone. "If that's how you feel, then perhaps I don't have a daughter named Olivia anymore." "If that's what you want, Mom," I said quietly, "then so be it." It's been 6 weeks since that final confrontation in my living room. 6 weeks of silence, broken only by the occasional notifications of thinly veiled social media posts. "Some people only think about themselves," Mom wrote last week, followed by a dozen sympathetic comments from relatives and family friends who only knew her version of the story. "Family should always come first," Chloe posted yesterday with a picture of her daughter. "So blessed to have people in my life who understand what that really means." Emily's latest was a long paragraph about toxic people who destroy family bonds with their selfishness. She didn't tag me, of course, but everyone knew exactly who she was talking about. A few months ago, these posts would have shattered me. I would have spent hours crafting responses in my head, losing sleep over their words, wondering if maybe they were right. But now, I just scroll past them, sometimes with a small smile at how predictable they've become. I've changed my routine. Instead of spending my weekends waiting for emergency babysitting calls, I joined a local book club. The first meeting felt strange sitting in a coffee shop on a Saturday morning, knowing my phone wouldn't ring with a desperate plea from one of my sisters. Last week, I booked another vacation, a trip to Europe in the spring. I didn't have to check with anyone's schedule, didn't have to worry about someone else's needs conflicting with mine. I just saw a good deal and took it. Sometimes, in the quiet moments, I think about my nieces and nephews. I miss them, but not in the way they were used against me. I hope that someday, when they're older, they'll understand. Maybe they'll even recognize the same patterns in their own lives and choose differently. I still have the emergency key Mom gave me that last day. I should probably mail it back, but every time I think about it, something stops me. Maybe part of me hopes that one day they'll understand, that they'll see how their actions and expectations were unfair, that they'll realize family doesn't mean sacrificing yourself to meet everyone else's needs. But I'm not waiting for that day anymore. I'm not putting my life on hold hoping for their approval or understanding. For the first time in my life, I'm putting myself first, and it feels right. Yesterday, I deleted the family group chat from my phone. I didn't announce it, didn't try to explain myself. I just quietly removed myself from one more obligation, one more source of stress. Some might call this selfishness. My family certainly does. But I've learned there's a difference between being selfish and having self-respect. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is step away from people who can't see your worth beyond what you can do for them. What do you do when your family starts treating you like nothing more than a tool to be used when they ask for your time, your money, your sacrifice, but never once consider what you might want or need? Olivia spent years putting everyone else first. She helped her sisters, babysat their kids, paid for things, and never complained. She sacrificed her own happiness, all for the sake of family. But when it came time for her to be included, to be part of the celebration, she was left out, expected to stay behind, watch the kids, and give up her chance to enjoy the moment. When Olivia finally realized how little respect her family had for her, she stopped saying yes. She stopped being their unpaid caretaker. She stopped letting them control her life. She booked a vacation for herself, put her own needs first, and didn't look back. But her family wasn't happy. They didn't understand. They called her selfish, accusing her of ruining everything. But Olivia knew the truth. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is walk away from people who don't value you. So, what would you do? Would you keep giving, hoping for change? Or would you choose yourself, just like Olivia did? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.